ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of World of Tanks. I am your host, Ladpad, and today we are going to be watching Rossberry in his BZ-176. This is one of the most overpowered tanks in the entire game, and we are going to watch Rossberry have perhaps the greatest Tier 8 game of all time. I'm not going to put any spoilers in yet, but I will just say that the amount of damage and kills in the carry that Rossberry is going to pull off in this replay are just some of the most absurd results I've ever seen. I've seen 10,000 damage in Tier 10 tanks. It's very uncommon, but it does happen. I've seen 10,000 damage in Tier 9 tanks. It happens once in a blue moon, but 10,000 damage in a Tier 8 tank is absurd. Now, a few things to note. Why is this possible? Well, number one, Rossberry he is not top tier, but he is in a Tier 9 game, and if we're being honest, the BZ-176 is more like a Tier 9 tank than a Tier 8 one, and so no opponent he's going to run into is going to be too strong for him to overcome. Number two, Rossberry is just a really exceptional player. Right now, he is pursuing his third mark of excellence. He's very, very close in this replay, and he's gonna try to accomplish it in this game. Also, we should note he's going for heavy tank 15 tempered steel. I believe this is for the T55A, and he's hoping to improve his results and get that extra order. And right here, that shell for 700 damage is going to help him quite a bit, because he's going to need to do 12,000 damage, either 12,000 damage that he's dealt, that he's received, or that he's blocked, and that is a high task in really any tank, and we're going to see if Rossberry can accomplish it here in this game. Right through the lower plate of the Hori 1. That's a beautiful shell, and already Rossberry is up to 2,000 damage, and he's nowhere close to being done. Right now, Rossberry is demonstrating excellent use of the BZ. He's used two of his boosts, these rocket boosts attached to the back of his tank, and they have allowed him to get into position very quickly. The BZ just excels at getting into its first position very, very quickly with the help of these rocket boosts, and then it can hold down positions better than almost any other tank of its tier. It's got phenomenal armor, especially towards the front, and it's able to poke up, put in shells like this one, and then just pull back to complete safety. In almost no other tank, no tank that I can think of, can you just pull up to a window, block almost all incoming fire, deal half the health of your opponents, and then casually pull back. This tank has decent mobility, and it's got phenomenal alpha. Watch this shell. Pixel shot. The RNG gods just bless Rossberry, and he gets up to 3,500 damage. That Bazante has to be cursing his luck, but that shell managed to just go in, and this replay is just going to keep on steam rolling forward. Rossberry takes a look, takes a great risk, just hot shots on the move, and gets the penetrating shell into the Hori. Another pixel shot. That one is his second in a row, and right now he boosts to get out of the line of danger. That's a perfect use of a boost. You need to save your boost, especially your third and your fourth boost, for when you are in danger. And how can I get out of the line of fire as quickly as possible? I love that Rossberry is repositioning the Emil corpse, and he's going to use this hole to protect his lower plate. He gets forward, he doesn't end up penetrating the Bazante. That was a bit of a poor shell, and now he's sort of jinking back and forth, and trying to find a way for him to kill this Bazante. When you're facing multiple opponents at one time, you need to get the kills off as quickly as you can, because they will allow you to focus down individual targets so much more easily. There will be less damage coming in, and so Ross does a great job of shutting down the Bazante. However, he's got a T-34 flanking him. He's asking for help, and the Hori on his own team saves him. The Hori tracks the T-34, keeps him in place. The T-34 can't face him now, and now The Hori puts in a second shell. Rossberry finishes him off. The Tiger 2 is pushing forward, and thankfully Rossberry has his rear defended. Beautiful work by the Hori. Absolutely saves this entire game. And now Rossberry can get to farming the easy health point pool of the Tiger 2. The Tiger facing his side armor towards the BC. Horrendous mistake. Rossberry puts a great shell into the engine deck. And the Tiger 2 has burned now for 1200 damage. The Hori flanks behind, gets in a shell. Right here, Ross demonstrates excellent awareness of the battlefield. He's checking the Barask behind him, and this sort of game sense and game awareness is why Rossberry is clearly such an incredible player. The ability to check in and out that the T-34 was behind him, that the Barask was trying to get in a couple shells, was just phenomenal awareness, and you need to be watching your minimap to develop this sense of ability. Great work by Ross there. Finally, we've got just a little bit of a lull in the combat. Rossberry has been going non-stop for quite a long time, and he turns his attention to the LT-432. The LT wisely doesn't pull around the corner. He's thinking about things. He knows he's been spotted. That Sixth Sense would have procced for him, and now Rossberry is going to push forward the combat. The LT is running away. Rossberry gets a little desperate to get a kill. He gets proxy spotted by the light tank, and he's taking a bit of a risk. The SU-130 could be facing this window. Any number of guns could be directed his way, and Rossberry just takes sort of a preemptive shot. He had no idea what he was going to be looking at. He gets nothing but wall, and now he has a bit of time to think. The BZ, at the end of the day, is a heavy tank, and you don't want to be in an open field with it. So Rossberry wisely decides not to push south to where all his opponents are. Instead, he starts moving back toward the cap circle. He's still in the city. He's got plenty of cover all around him, and so long as he stays within these ruins, he's going to have excellent protection and great hold down opportunities to farm his opponents up. Unfortunately, the Barask does flank around, ends up killing the T-95. Great work from that Barask, and Rossberry is going to try to get a flanking shot. He elects not to go to the window, instead pops down, aims, bang, gets in the finishing shot. That's beautiful work and really enabled by Rossberry's equipment setup. Rossberry is using a full Bond setup. He's got Bond rammer, he's got Bond vert stabs, and he's got a Bond turbo, and all of these equipment I think are just must-haves for the BZ-176. The Bond vert stabs are absolutely critical for hitting shots as you move around in this tank. Notably, he was able to pop around that corner, and he got a shot into the Barask because he's got that incredible stabilization from the vert stabs, and so it's really a must-have piece of equipment. You can't go wrong with a rammer. You always have to have one if you're able to mount one, and this Bond rammer is just phenomenally helpful for what he's doing. And lastly, he's got that Bond turbo. Turbo does a lot for this tank. If you're not aware, the turbo actually stacks with the rocket boost ability, and so the fact that Rossberry is able to boost and get that speed bump, that max speed ability, plus the engine power, just makes your boost all that much stronger. And so I've 3-marked the BZ-176 myself. This is the exact same equipment loadout, perhaps not with Bond equipment, but using the Bond rammer, or using the rammer, using the vert stabs, using that turbo, I think are all must-haves, and I can't think of any other equipment I would rather swap in for this tank. You need to be able to aim. Your DPM is just absolutely super important, and that rammer is just phenomenal, especially when you're not using the boost system. These boost abilities are critical for the BZ's gameplay, and if you don't have them, then the tank is generally pretty sluggish without the rammer, and you really need to include it as you're able. Also, just a side note, Rossberry was able to 2-shot a higher tier tank right there. He put 2 shells into the tier 3 Jaeger. He did get a little lucky with some high rolls, but that managed just to wipe out the entirety of that player's hit points. He pops around the cover, and right there we've he has accomplished Heavy Tank 15. In fact, this is such a monster game, he might have been able to do this for Heavy Tank 15 for the Object 260, not just the T-55A. This is just one of the most absurd rounds of World of Tanks I've ever seen. He shuts down that pesky LT-432. Well played to that player for hanging around for so long, but ultimately it's no match for a tank that can do 80% of its hit points in a single shell. Now the T-55A seems to think it has the jump, realizes it's made a huge mistake, tries to get out a little bit, doesn't manage to, puts in a shot, but Rossberry cleans up the entirety of that T-55A's remaining hit points. This is now a 2v2. Right now, Rossberry's team is down by about 500 hit points, and he knows exactly where the SU is. Even though the SU isn't spotted, he knows it's in the cap circle, and look at this lovely position. He's hull down, he can poke out through this rock opening, and bang. You know what SU-130s don't deal well with? Huge HE shells. I believe that's 16 millimeters of high explosive straight to the dome, and that full HP tank and the health point advantage that the SU's team had has been wiped out in a moment. Rossberry mentions casual 10k, and ladies and gentlemen, the damage is not done there. He is going to push forward. He knows that the SU is not on cap, and so he's pretty safe from getting pushed right here, and he feels confident in going forward and trying to flank around and see if he can catch a glimpse of the SU, perhaps as it runs away. His Char currently has about 1,000 HP remaining, and it's really looking up for Rossberry's team. Now, an SU-130 PM and an ELC Even 90 are fantastic late game tanks. They've got fantastic camo. They're able to outspot their opponents. So if those two players were able to work together in the open field, then absolutely Rossberry would have an enormous amount of trouble. However, the SU gets spotted. The ELC is nowhere to be found. The SU isn't responding at all. Rossberry aims, puts in the shell. That's another 300 damage. And he is one shell away from eclipsing not 10,000 damage, but 11,000 damage. This is perhaps the most monstrous Tier 8 game that I've ever seen. It's absolutely stunning. And he's got just a little bit more work to go. This ELC Even 90 could be absolutely anywhere. The Char Future has been chasing it around, trying to find it for quite a while, but the ELC seems to have slipped the trap, and this is a very dangerous tank to find. However, the ELC makes a mistake, gets spotted out into the open, and Rossberry is hunting for 11,000 damage. The ELC could run away, however, it makes a beeline push towards him. Bang. That's 11,000 damage. Rossberry puts it in the chat, and this ends perhaps the greatest Tier 8 tank game I've ever seen. And a quick look at the post-game results. Right here, Rossberry does accomplish. He obtains his third mark of excellence. On what better game could you have achieved this? He gets an obvious mastery badge. He picks up a Pools medal, a Defender, a Steel Wall, the biggest high caliber, I think, of any Tier 8 tank ever, and of course a Top Gun. He manages to slam out 11 kills, 11,000 damage. He blocks 2,000 of his own, and this is a base XP of 2,977. That's base XP, ladies and gentlemen. He does more damage than anybody on his team combined, and just obliterates the enemy team. This Barask had a great game. This T-55A played really, really well, but they were no match for Rossberry as he shut them both down. Now, he did end up firing quite a bit of premium ammunition. He loses 161,000 credits for resupply, but it doesn't matter when he's making 330,000 credits with a personal reserve bonus. He does seem to have some sort of boost from some sort of ability elsewhere, but this is just a cracking round. He puts in his description casual 11,000 damage BC, and honestly it was casual. This is the peak of tier 8 premium nonsense. And just to round this video out, Wargaming, please don't sell this ever again. As a BZ owner myself, somebody who has 3-marked this thing, I am absolutely fine with it getting nerfed. This thing is toxic for the game overall. It's not good, and for those of us who want to see World of Tanks just continue to do well day after day, year after year, please eliminate this nonsense, make the game healthier, and allow us to watch the game grow and improve instead of waitlisting over time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining. Please take a look at our upcoming giveaway, and I will see you in the next one. Lad out.